continuation of the story, light through pain, lingering questions and continuing the journey, lingering doubts after the encounter. Leaving the river behind, William walked slowly, his old wooden cane tapping rhythmically on the rocky path. In his heart, questions swirled about the middle-aged man they had just met. Those eyes, could they belong to my son? But why didn't he recognize me? Faint memories of the past resurfaced like scattered fragments he couldn't piece together. William's heart trembled between hope and doubt, making each step feel heavier than the last. The young man walking beside him observed William in silence. He didn't ask questions, but his quiet presence provided William with a sense of solace. Sometimes, a companion doesn't need to say much. Just being there when you need someone is enough. Deeper into the poor villages. Their journey continued, this time following narrow paths leading into small villages nestled between the towering mountain ranges. The sight of dilapidated thatched houses, surrounded by parched fields and modest vegetable gardens, painted a vivid picture of the harsh life in these parts. William paused, his gaze drifting over the faces of the villagers, farmers with lean frames, barefoot children running on dusty ground. There was something oddly familiar in those faces, like a distant memory tugging at his heart. The young man broke the silence, his voice steady yet encouraging. "Mr. William, we can ask for more information here. Small villages like this often hold on to memories longer." William nodded, his eyes glimmering with renewed hope. This marks another step in William's emotional journey, weaving hope and resilience into a story of loss, rediscovery, and human connection. A warm afternoon at the small tea house. As the sunset bathed the mountains in a warm red hue, they stopped at a small roadside tea house. Unlike the previous encounter, the atmosphere here was surprisingly serene. The tea house was simple, made of bamboo with a palm-thatched roof, and furnished with rustic yet neatly arranged wooden tables and chairs. Inside, only a few patrons, elderly men and women, sipped tea and engaged in hushed conversations. When William entered, he was greeted by friendly eyes. An elderly woman with silver hair smiled warmly as her hands deftly poured tea into cups. "Please have a seat, sir. You must be tired from the long journey," she said, her gentle voice soothing like a lullaby. William felt a sense of comfort he hadn't experienced in a long time. The young man guided William to a small table by the window. The golden rays of the setting sun streamed through, casting a rare warmth over the scene, a stark contrast to their otherwise arduous journey. As William settled into his seat, the other patrons began to show interest. "Where have you come from, sir? You must be searching for someone," an elderly man with a white beard asked, his gaze curious yet kind. Clutching his cane tightly, William spoke slowly, his voice laden with emotion. "I'm looking for my son. We lost contact a long time ago. I've heard he might have lived in villages like this." As his words trailed off, a profound silence enveloped the tea house, as though everyone present was drawn into his story. The once curious gazes softened, now filled with empathy. An older woman murmured, "You must have traveled far, but don't give up. Your son might be waiting for you somewhere." William nodded, his eyes glistening with tears. The warmth of this moment felt like a gentle breeze, soothing his weary heart after days of hardship. The journey pressed on, and this time, William and the young man ventured deeper into the impoverished villages nestled along the mountain range. The comfort of that small tea house lingered in William's mind, a rare respite in a quest filled with trials and uncertainty. The unexpected insult, the atmosphere turns tense. After the initial taunts, the once peaceful tea house was filled with mocking laughter. The eyes of the patrons, which had seemed indifferent at first, now turned toward William with coldness and disdain. A burly man with a rough demeanor stepped closer, his gaze scrutinizing William from head to toe. "Look at yourself," he sneered. "Dressed like that, and you're searching for your son? Maybe he ran away to avoid you." William lowered his head, his frail hands gripping his wooden cane tightly as though it were the last anchor of his composure. His voice was soft but steady. "I'm not here to bother anyone. I just want to know if my son is doing well." But his heartfelt words only seemed to fuel the ridicule. A woman standing nearby shook her head and chuckled bitterly. "Old man, young people these days live for themselves. Who cares about an aging parent? You'd better head back to wherever you came from." William pushed to his limit. As William turned to leave, hoping to diffuse the rising tension, a sudden shove from behind sent him staggering forward. His old, fragile cane fell to the ground and snapped in two, the sharp sound cutting through the room. The laughter grew louder and cruel remarks echoed around him. Just a burden, through and through. Your son probably forgot about you a long time ago. William dropped to his knees, picking up the broken pieces of his cane with trembling hands. His body quivered, not just from age, but from the deep pain searing through his heart. Tears streamed down his hollowed cheeks, unstoppable and raw. He couldn't comprehend how people could be so callous, so utterly devoid of compassion. As the jeers continued, William remained on the floor, clutching the shattered cane, broken not unlike his spirit. The young man stands up. Unable to bear the sight any longer, the young man accompanying William stepped forward, his eyes blazing with anger. Do you even realize how far this man has traveled and how much humiliation he has endured just to find his son? He doesn't deserve this treatment. He bent down to help William stand, his resolute gaze piercing through the crowd. If you can't offer help, at least show some basic respect. A father like Mr. William deserves that much. Though a few in the crowd looked momentarily ashamed, most remained indifferent. From a corner of the tea house, an older man let out a weary sigh and spoke up. Enough. Stop humiliating the old man. A quiet departure. William rose to his feet, his sorrowful eyes scanning the crowd one last time. He said nothing, only turned and slowly walked out of the tea house. His frail figure seemed even smaller amidst the bustling scene, but the mocking laughter still echoed behind him. The young man quickly followed, gently placing a hand on William's shoulder. Mr. William, don't let them discourage you. We'll keep searching. Your son is out there, and we will find him. William gave a faint nod, his voice soft but resolute. I won't stop. I have to find him, no matter how much more pain I have to endure. A moment of hope. As they left the village, the sun dipped low in the sky, casting a golden glow over the horizon. The gentle breeze swept across the fields, soothing some of the weight in William's heart. Though it felt as if his soul had been torn apart, a faint glimmer of hope remained within him. I can't stop here, William thought to himself. No matter what they say, I know my son is somewhere out there, waiting for me. The young man sat beside him for a moment, speaking softly. Mr. William, I've never met anyone as strong as you. We'll find him, even if we have to travel to the ends of the earth. Unexpected clue. Their journey continued until they reached a small village near the border. There, they encountered an elderly woman selling goods from a roadside stall. When her eyes fell on the letter in William's hands, she gasped. This letter. I've seen a man with one just like it. He used to stand at the Western bus station, selling trinkets to make a living. William's heart surged with hope. Are you sure? Is he still there? The woman shook her head. I'm not certain, but if you're lucky, you might still find him there. They quickly made their way to the bus station she mentioned. However, upon arrival, they found only a desolate scene. Rusted, old buses scattered under the late afternoon sun and a handful of weary street vendors. William stood in the middle of the station, his eyes scanning every face, but none resembled the son he had once known. The Western bus station and first signs. The Western bus station came into view, its worn-down buses and empty benches a stark contrast to William's soaring hopes. The distant sound of hawkers calling out their wares blended with the whistle of the wind weaving through abandoned seats. William walked slowly, his eyes moving from one vendor to another, studying each tired face. He might have been here, he whispered to himself, his hand clutching the letter tightly as though it held the key to his son's whereabouts. Nearby, a middle-aged man pushing a cart of bread noticed William's searching gaze. Curious, he paused and asked, Old man, are you looking for someone? William approached him eagerly, his voice trembling. I'm searching for my son. Someone told me he used to be here, carrying a letter just like this one. Do you know anything about him? The man looked at the letter in William's hands, his expression thoughtful. I do remember a man who used to stand here, selling small items. But he's not here anymore. I heard he left a few weeks ago, looking for work in the next village. William sighed deeply, feeling the spark of hope ignite and dim once more. But he refused to let the disappointment take root. He nodded, thanking the man, and turned to the young companion by his side. "We must keep going. If he's moved on, we'll find him somewhere." A mysterious man. As they prepared to leave the bus station, a man wearing a worn-out coat with a furtive demeanor approached them. "I heard you're looking for someone here," he whispered. William and the young man turned to him, their eyes filled with curiosity. "Yes, do you know anything?" William asked, his voice a mix of hope and caution. The man nodded, his gaze briefly falling on the letter in William's hand. "I used to see a man who fits your description. He didn't talk much, just sold small items and occasionally mentioned he was waiting for someone. He often sat under the big tree outside the station, near the entrance. But he's gone now. However, he left behind an old bag. I think it might be related to you." Hearing this, William felt a surge of energy. "Where is that bag? Can you take me to it?" he asked eagerly. A clue in the bag. The man led William and the young man to a large tree near the entrance of the bus station. He pointed to an old, dusty cloth bag lying beneath the tree, partially covered with dry leaves. "I don't know if it's important to you, but it's been here for a few days," the man said. William knelt down, his trembling hands opening the bag. Inside were a few simple belongings: a torn jacket, a small notebook, and an old photograph. He pulled out the photograph, and his heart clenched as he recognized it. It was a picture of his son as a child, standing next to him and his late wife. On the back of the photo was a faintly written note: "Dad, I've always remembered you." Tears streamed down William's weathered face. "He remembers me," he whispered, his voice choked with emotion. Continuing the journey. Clutching the photo tightly, William's eyes shone with a renewed light, even as his heart remained heavy. He looked at the stranger and said softly, "Thank you. No matter what, this bag is a sign. I won't give up." The young man placed a reassuring hand on William's shoulder, his voice steady and resolute. "We'll find him, Mr. William. This is just the beginning." They left the bus station, with William holding the old bag like a treasured possession. As they walked along the rugged road ahead, their hope burned brighter than ever, a guiding light through the uncertainty of their journey. A strange encounter. As William prepared to leave, a voice called out from behind. "Old man, who are you looking for?" William turned around and saw a gaunt middle-aged man dressed in shabby clothes, but his eyes were bright and piercing. The man stared at William intently, his gaze flickering with surprise. "Your name is William, isn't it?" William froze in shock. "Yes. Do you know me?" The man stepped closer, his voice trembling. "I'm not sure, but I think we need to talk." A suspenseful ending. As the two men stood face to face, time seemed to stand still. Was this man William's long-lost son, or just another piece of the puzzle in his journey filled with anguish and hope? The questions remained unanswered, but in William's heart, the flame of hope burned brighter than ever. Personal reflection. William's story is not just about finding his son. It is a testament to perseverance and the human spirit's ability to overcome insurmountable challenges. Despite humiliation, hardship, and seemingly endless trials, William never gave up. Life is full of obstacles, but even the smallest glimmer of hope can propel us forward and help us uncover the true meaning of our journey. What surprises await in the next chapter? How will William's journey conclude? These are questions only time can answer.